Well, welcome back to Jacksonville as you see the U.S. team huddle up around their coaching staff, and what a talented coaching staff that is. The USA, by the way, as we look at the AT&T starting lineups, first of all for Puerto Rico. In the backcourt, Carlos Arroyo and Larry Ayuso. The veteran Jose Ortiz starting up front with Rolando Hoyritner and Daniel Santiago, 7-footer, in the middle. For the USA, Stephon Marbury and Sean Marion are listed as the guards. Lamar Odom and Richard Jefferson, the forwards, starting with Tim Duncan. Now you can see that you're missing Allen Iverson in that starting lineup. He's not available, nor is LeBron James, nor is Amare Stoudemire. Bill Walton, all because they missed a team meeting. Late to a team meeting.
Late breaking news here. We were just told that those three players, Amare, LeBron, and Allen Iverson, will not play. They are not out on the court. They're on the bench right now in practice uniforms. They were late to an 11 o'clock meeting at the beautiful hotel resort where the team has been staying at Ponte Vedra in Jacksonville here, in a very disappointing situation early on. But I've always felt that you can't be on time, just be early, and that'll solve all your problems.
Well, and of course, as you look at that picture there, Allen Iverson in the middle, he is a co-captain of this group with Tim Duncan.
Larry Brown doing the right thing, realizing that discipline is so critically important.
International rules, as you know, in many instances differ from what we're used to in the U.S. and the NBA. As you see, the quarter is a 10-minute quarter instead of 12. And the size of the lane, 19 feet at the base instead of 16 feet, which it is in the NBA. Three-point distance, actually in the NBA, it's 23-9, and it's about 20.5 in FIBA or the international rules. And you can also go after the ball when it's up there on the rim.
I think that's a real critical aspect of the rules, the differences that give the international players with their experience, something that the U.S. does not have a lot of. Not a single player on Larry Brown's roster has ever played in an Olympic game.
And it's Lamar Odom controlling the tip after a fashion. Marbury with a strike inside to Marion for the dunk.
But with only 2 referees in international basketball, a lot of the court goes uncovered by the sightlines, and that ball was clearly out of bounds. Referees unable to catch that with their sight.
And Puerto Rico turns it over, so the USA with a 2-0 lead and the ball here in the early going.
Only 9 players available for Larry Brown. If you're Puerto Rico, let's get it going up and down.
Richard Jefferson, Odom, and Lamar Odom hits a deep 2 to make it 4-0 USA.
At practice yesterday, Lamar Odom was very strong in the scrimmage against New Zealand, taking it to the hoop. Leadership qualities. Now the Los Angeles Laker Lamar Odom. Who would have ever thought?
Hoyritner lines up a 3.
Outside shooting is one of the real strengths of this Puerto Rican team, as well as quickness at the point guard. Stephon Marbury, without Allen Iverson, is going to have to be at the top of his game.
And with Santiago and Ortiz, they have some size inside as well. There's Duncan, virtually the only man of size for the U.S., and a foul.
But you lose Amare Stoudemire. You got Emeka Okafor, College Player of the Year, along with Jameer Nelson. An early timeout here in Jacksonville.
That foul was called on Santiago, the first foul of the game. A timeout with 8:46 left in the opening quarter, and the U.S. up by 4. The U.S. with a 4-0 lead and 8:46 for the quarter, and with Allen Iverson unable to play today, along with Amare Stoudemire and LeBron James, Bill Walton, what this does, of course, is the U.S. is shy enough at the point guard spot. Now without Iverson, now without LeBron James, who can play there. I mean, it's Stephon Marbury and Dwayne Wade, basically.
And if you're the Puerto Rican national team, you come with pressure in the backcourt, try to take the ball out of Stephon Marbury's hands, see what kind of handle Richard Jefferson will bring. Big guys are going to have to step away from the basket. Carmelo Anthony, he can be a leader type of player.
Tim Duncan making the first of 2 free throws. And he hits them both, and Greg Popovich is probably over there on that bench saying, how come he doesn't do this in his day job? USA up by 6. Some pressure by the U.S. team, and Duncan with a steal on the run out. It's Marbury.
The trapping, pressing defense by Larry Brown, trying to make Puerto Rico's big men come away. Jose Ortiz and Santiago, not the strength of their game.
Ayuso working inside across the lane. Santiago ripped down by Duncan.
What a pleasure to play with Tim Duncan for so many of these guys. The dribble out after the defensive rebound, the passing ability, the willingness to screen.
Marion on the follow, and Marion has 4 points early.
One of the weaknesses for Puerto Rico, Jim, is their small forward position. They really don't have anybody who can get out there and guard the likes of a Sean Marion, who's been wide open time and time again.
And that's one of the strengths of USA.
Between Richard Jefferson, Sean Marion, Carmelo Anthony, Lamar Odom.
There's a foul called on the U.S. And Ortiz will be getting to the free throw line.
As a player with the ball in the half-court area, whenever a double team comes at you, get rid of the ball before the guy gets to you. Stephon Marbury, so fortunate to have a cerebral play of Tim Duncan right there, and the unwillingness of the point guards for Puerto Rico to give it up early led to that turnover.
Jose Ortiz, the 40-year-old front court player of Puerto Rico. 6'10", 260. Splits the free throws, and Puerto Rico is on the board.
Ortiz played at Oregon State so many years ago. One of the great players truly in the history of Puerto Rican basketball.
Sean Marion's pass, and Duncan not ready for it. Here comes Ayuso. Has his shot turned away. Sean Marion on the block.
Terrific team defense. Strip down low, force the double clutch, then big guys running the floor, defensive transition.
Off the cut, the U.S. turns it over. Carlos Arroyo of the Utah Jazz. Horritner inside Santiago, and Duncan snuffs his shot.
Get some spacing on the floor if you're the USA. Give Marbury room to work.
Wide open is Odom, and that's a 3 if it drops. The U.S. without a lot of three-point shooting on this team, but remember, as we showed you in our graphic setup, in FIBA international rules, the three-point line is closer to the basket than is the NBA line.
Nice passing.
Knocked loose, but to Duncan. The basket is good, and the foul.
When you look at this USA team, the obvious weaknesses would be outside shooting and complementary big men to Tim Duncan. It just exacerbates the whole problem with the disciplinary action taken against Amare Stoudemire, who will not play today, late to the meeting. You have so many guys involved in this block. When you're coming down the lane like that as a point guard, you have to be thinking, set up somebody else who's standing on the three-point arc.
So he made his first 2 free throws today. Duncan missing on that one. The USA up by 11. 6:28 left in the first. Jim Durham with Bill Walton, and we're glad to have you with us today as the U.S. begins a 6-game exhibition tour through 4 countries.
Jose Ortiz, an expert feeder from the high post there. Santiago is still a young player, needs to learn how to finish stronger.
Loose ball rebound goes out of bounds, and it goes to Puerto Rico. There's not a lot of experience on this USA club in terms of international play. We told you at the top, only 3 players on the roster from last year's team that qualified. Carlos Arroyo connecting on that one, the first field goal for Puerto Rico.
Always an intimidation factor in play when you're up against the USA. But these 2 squads scrimmaged at University of North Florida on Thursday morning at the practice session. So they're well aware of what the USA brings talent-wise.
Richard Jefferson right down the chute with a 3. USA up by a dozen.
USA has not come back with that trapping half-court press, which was very effective the first time and only time they tried it.
Trying to work through a screen as a foul called on the United States. And a timeout taken. Larry Brown, club with a 12-point lead early, having scored 15 of the first 18 points today. 6:20 for the quarter.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome.
And let's take a look at the American Airlines upcoming USA basketball schedule. I talked about the tour that the U.S. team is on. They'll play Italy in Germany on Tuesday at 2 o'clock Eastern on ESPN. And then on Wednesday, they'll take on the German national team in Cologne. On Friday, that's the game that now Serbia and Montenegro are not, they don't have their full complement of players, but if they did, that would be like an NBA Finals game.
No place on earth loves basketball more than Serbia-Montenegro. As we peek in on Larry Brown's huddle there, and the instructions, the constant teaching that we've come to expect from the head coach of the world champion Detroit Pistons, Sean Marion, getting some expert advice.
Larry Brown, of course, a great disciple of defense, and here's a look at some of the early defense by the U.S. That was that trapping half-court press you were talking about.
The rotation on the back line of Lamar Odom and Tim Duncan has been superb in the early goings here. When you have athletic finishers like Richard Jefferson, Stephon Marbury out on the wings, what could be better?
We've talked already a lot about what the U.S. doesn't have. As you see, Puerto Rico just 1 of 7 from the field. But the U.S. does have athleticism. You know, they do have talented players, albeit some of them very young.
But who would have ever thought that the USA would even be threatened in terms of their possibilities for the gold medal?
Iverson knocks out a 3 for Puerto Rico.
Execution of set offense out of a dead ball timeout situation, coming off that baseline screen, perfect for the Puerto Rican national team.
There's Marbury with a lob inside, and it misconnects with Odom, turned over to Puerto Rico.
No pressure in the backcourt by Stephon Marbury. A little surprising here.
Carlos Arroyo. Ayuso off the entry pass, back to Arroyo. The shot clock at 10. And just like in the NBA and FIBA, it's 24 seconds to shoot. Jose Ortiz couldn't even get a look in the middle as the U.S. team really had it plugged up inside. Marbury with a pitch out to Marion. Jefferson, a nice touch to Duncan.
Collapsing on Duncan inside. Zone defense totally legal in international basketball.
Marbury lost it off the dribble. Carlos Arroyo.
No need to double team anyone for Puerto Rico if you're the United States.
That's a 3 if it drops, and he shot it over the rim. Arroyo did, and so Marion controlling for the U.S. Duncan off the post. Nice handoff on the cut.
Literally no space whatsoever.
How do you get through there? Marion's got 6.
Generally, when the defense collapses like that, you want to come foot to foot with your defensive teammate there to disallow that slice through.
Santiago swings a hook up. And the U.S. with the rebound taken down by Jefferson. Odom beats Marion. Marbury, Jefferson, Duncan.
Not a single dribble yet since the ball's crossed half court.
Turned away by Santiago. Then the ball out of bounds off the U.S.
And Richard Jefferson raises his hand and says, "My ball here." Beautiful give and go right down the lane. All kinds of defenders for Puerto Rico just standing and watching. Duncan, an exquisite passer.
The U.S. making changes in the lineup as Dwayne Wade comes into the game along with Carmelo Anthony and Carlos Boozer.
Dwayne Wade playing for the Miami Heat, getting a resounding roar of appreciation, applause from this sold-out crowd. 15,500 in this new building here, less than a year old in Jacksonville.
And this will probably be the quietest crowd that the U.S. will play in front of in this exhibition tour.
Cologne has that beautiful new arena. Really looking forward to the visit to the Rhine River and that magnificent city in the northern industrial part of Germany, and then down to Belgrade and and over to the Bosporus Straits there in Istanbul.
Anthony using a Boozer screen. Now Marion with 11 on the shot clock.
Zone defense for Puerto Rico.
That's Carmelo Anthony off the drive and a foul call.
The distinction between what's an offensive foul and what's a blocking foul in international basketball will lead to many arguments. The NBA is the best league in the world at giving the defenders any sort of chance whatsoever.
That foul is on Larry Ayuso, his second, and Carmelo Anthony on the free throw line. Stephon Marbury coming back in. Marion goes out. I would think, especially today, that Stephon Marbury is going to log heavy minutes in this game.
One of the things that Larry Brown is trying to use this 6-game exhibition Dream Tour for is conditioning and getting used to the play of guys who you've never really been with. This squad has only been together really for 1 week, and then to find a rhythm, find a style. Stephon Marbury, who I've spent some time with this summer, early on is in top shape, and he'll be ready to go. The pace of this game is not nearly what you would get from a regular NBA game. And a clock malfunction. Apparently a clock problem. You know, the other thing is this game, as we mentioned, is 8 minutes shorter than an NBA game, and you're over there with like an all-star bench. You know, that's the other thing that Larry Brown has to deal with. How do you get guys minutes? Another steal. Wade with a nice setup for Anthony. Electrifying the crowd. The transition defense helpless against the onslaught of the USA fast break.
Here they come again.
Spread the floor.
Marbury to Boozer. Anthony right back to Wade. Behind the back setup for Boozer.
And we are seeing an emerging star in Wade. I know you voted him number 2 in the NBA Rookie of the Year selections. What a run he had deep into the playoffs with the Miami Heat.
You know, the thing about all three of those guys is that their star quality. That's Apodaca, who came on. Rick Apodaca with his first field goal.
And how much better is Dwayne Wade going to be? Careless turnover there by the USA. Marbury might be able to rescue it.
But nope. Ayuso scores, and he has 5.
How much easier is it going to be for Dwayne Wade to emerge as a start with Shaquille O'Neal in the middle now? He's going to be so wide open all the time. He's going to be on national television virtually every week.
Duncan with a handoff to Wade, and then Wade is called for an offensive foul.
So there is such a thing as an offensive foul in international competition.
When you're out of control, it's going to be called no matter what league you're playing.
Boozer, nice finish at the hoop there. Amazing that he's able to play any sort of rhythm basketball at all. He's been on a plane across the country the last 2 days. Was unable to participate in yesterday's scrimmage against New Zealand because he was in Salt Lake City signing that very nice contract. Congratulations to Carlos Boozer and his family.
Fajardo, who's on, number 13, makes the move past Boozer and then tracks down his own miss after deflection. Shot clock reset. It's at 18. Less than a minute for the first.
Nice step out by Carlos Boozer defensively.
Ayuso for 3. That's his second three-pointer. 8 points for him already, and the U.S. lead is down to 10.
The dominance inside that Duncan and Odom and Boozer have displayed early on, you'd think that the perimeter defenders for Larry Brown would really extend.
Duncan tries a 3.
How many three-pointers has Tim Duncan made in his NBA career?
I don't know, but he's going to take advantage of that shorter three-point line.
Tim Duncan has played 40 games in international competition already on behalf of the USA.
Santiago around Duncan. Daniel Santiago scoring the final seconds here in the quarter, and the U.S. on top by 11. Marbury, Boozer, a straight-on look at a 3 at the buzzer.
That's the end of the first period with the score. USA 26.
Very solid start for Larry Brown's squad early on. Puerto Rico made a little bit of a run, but certainly no match in the first quarter.
Welcome back to Jacksonville with Bill Walton. I'm Jim Durham. The USA leading Puerto Rico 26-15. And how about Thursday? 3 cheers for the red, white, and blue. The hoops for troops.
A spectacular day at the University of North Florida in that scrimmage mentioned earlier between the USA and Puerto Rico, witnessed by thousands of U.S. servicemen and women here in the southeast part of the United States. The autograph sessions afterwards, the photos, it was tremendous. Larry Brown addressing all of them, thanking them for their commitment, for their sacrifices. And Larry Brown knows full well, as Tim Duncan signs the autographs and handing out the shirts, that there will be many, many troops in Germany, Serbia, and Turkey that are deployed on behalf of our country's goals and ideals that will be part of the celebration of this Dream Team Dream Tour.
Puerto Rico with Dalmau in the game now, number 9 in the backcourt after the inbounds. Cassiano handles here against Marbury. A near steal, and then shot knocked away as the U.S. comes away again with a strong defensive play. Jefferson left open.
Consistent stroke for Richard Jefferson from the perimeter, something that they'll really have to rely on up in New Jersey in the years to come after trading Kerry Kittles over to the Los Angeles Clippers. The dismantling of the New Jersey Nets, leaving lots of fans questioning what is going on here.
The U.S. has been in front throughout. Dwayne Wade in the middle. Nice dish to Boozer.
His sense of how to play.
You know, I don't think they're so lacking at the point guard spot. When you look at, people say, well, Marbury, he's a shooting point. Well, yeah, that may be on teams he plays with, but he's already proven in this game that he's going to get other guys involved. Cassiano sticks a 3.
When you talk about a point guard performer, everyone is so different. No one is ever going to be like John Stockton. No one's ever going to be like Magic Johnson or Oscar Robertson. These guys are going to establish their own identities and careers. You got Carmelo, Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, who can all handle it, dish, create. Beautiful creativity and imagination right there by Dwayne Wade.
Dwayne Wade drawing the foul, and he'll get to the free throw line. The U.S. on top by 12. With Bill Walton, I'm Jim Durham. We're in Jacksonville. It's a sellout crowd today. Over 15,000 here at the Veterans Memorial Arena. And the USA playing the first of 6 exhibition games as they lead into Athens in a little over 2 weeks. And they'll be playing Puerto Rico in the first game at the Olympics.
2 days after the opening ceremonies. Opening ceremonies on August 13th. The first game in pool play, the USA in Pool B. Puerto Rico on August 15th.
So I guess it'll be everybody into the pool. 12 to shoot. Cassiano finds the postman. The pass on the outside with 5 to shoot, loose, but tracked down. Apodaca off the lean in. Costing the 3 as he leaned in from the right side across the 3-point stripe. Puerto Rico within 10.
A nice flow to the offense right now for Puerto Rico. They're getting over the lethargic start that they had.
Carmelo Anthony is fouled, and he'll be on the free throw line.
And there was a sense on the USA team. Apodaca there leans in. Richard Jefferson just tries to get out of his way so he doesn't send Apodaca to the free throw line. But there was a sense by the USA team in the opening minutes. Look, we're shorthanded. We're without our captain Iverson, without LeBron, without our other big guy Amare Stoudemire. We better take care of business early. They built the big lead and have been able to sustain ever since. And if we move just down to the right, there you see Amare Stoudemire, Allen Iverson, LeBron James. This has to be a very embarrassing moment for all of them.
Carmelo Anthony splits the free throws. The other thing about that is we talk about Marbury playing a lot of minutes today probably, but Duncan also will play a lot of minutes because, he's their leader of this group. And, Larry Brown understands that he's got some inexperienced guys that he's got to get experience for, and he wants them out there in the best of settings, and that's when Duncan is on the floor.
Well, one of the greatest things in the 12 years of the NBA being involved with USA basketball is they don't overplay anybody. They don't wear them out. They realize they have other obligations and responsibilities to the NBA itself. Nice defensive pressure. They're forcing that turnover.
And timing is everything. Just as you look at the average age of the U.S. this year as opposed to other years when NBA players were allowed to play. Dalmau off the steal. Unable to finish, but it's tipped in by Apodaca. 6 points for him.
An average age of under 24 years of age. But if you take Duncan and Iverson off that list, it's a much, much underneath. Hey, Dwayne Wade's passing has been spectacular this afternoon.
Boozer on the miss. And now Puerto Rico with a chance to get it inside of double digits with a little less than 7 minutes for the half. At halftime, among other things, we'll be visiting with former NBA coach and Olympic coach of the Dream Team in '92, Chuck Daly.
Chuck's been with the team up here in Jacksonville, northern Florida for much of the week.
Gotta hurry. Shot clock violation.
Shot clock is 24 seconds in international competition.
That sounds familiar. Here comes Sean Marion back in for the USA.
That was the coach, Julio Toro. He's the winningest coach in Puerto Rican basketball history. He's got a tremendous assistant coach, Flor Melendez, who has fabulous international experience with Spain, Argentina, Brazil, and Panama.
Dwayne Wade goes into Boozer. Around the horn, Marion to Jefferson. Loose to Boozer, and now Wade with a tomahawk jam.
Wade, USA.
USA up by a dozen. Make it a 10-point game again. Jose Ortiz has his first field goal and 3 points scored.
He's so solid in all aspects, and like Karl Malone, just timeless in his career. He looks the same today as when he went to Corvallis and played at Oregon State.
Jefferson. Odom trying to save the rebound, and he does. He saves it off Puerto Rico, so the USA with the ball.
We saw Wade yesterday against New Zealand, able to get to the hoop at will. This time, no rotation whatsoever by the weak side. Fajardo, that's a throwdown.
Jefferson finding Marion. Taken out of there by Puerto Rico. Outlet pass deflected by Boozer. Still up for grabs and out of bounds to Puerto Rico.
The USA has such quickness, such athleticism. The length of their mid-range guys like a Sean Marion, a Lamar Odom, a Richard Jefferson, who can anticipate, even if they do get burned in the perimeter, they're so quick and so gifted physically, they can always get back.
A couple of changes made. Carlos Arroyo back on for Puerto Rico, and also Larry Ayuso, and Larry Brown makes a change for the USA. Dwayne Wade goes out. Marbury back in.
No zone defenses at all so far by the U.S. Ill-advised foul by Lamar Odom, and he knows it immediately.
But, you know, that's what Cassiano can do. You know, he's a veteran player. He understands how to get guys in a compromising position. And this almost happened earlier in his first half when he was able to draw a foul at that time on a three-point attempt.
Puerto Rico is a Commonwealth in their status legally in the relationship with the United States. And much like Fiji and the Virgin Islands, they have Olympic autonomy. So their athletes, when they're growing up, they are forced to choose whether they want to represent the United States or, as Tim Duncan did, or these guys who are playing for the Puerto Rican national team.
Tim Duncan was a swimmer. He wanted to go and represent the Virgin Islands in the Olympics as a swimmer.
It wasn't that great in our meeting with him yesterday when Tim was telling us about how his greatest Olympic memory was when he was just 11 or 12 years old and his older sister got on the plane to fly to Seoul to participate on behalf of the Virgin Islands as a swimmer in the 1988 games.
Puerto Rico has cut it to 9, and Cassiano missed on the third try. Marion with the rebound.
Puerto Rico packing it in, testing that theory that this USA team has very little outside shooting capabilities.
They get some penetration, though, and Jefferson finds Marion. Here's Jefferson for three.
How many times did that ball go back and forth across the court?
Yardo with that rebound. 4:56 for the half. The ball out of bounds and a timeout taken. So the USA playing shorthanded today, but they've been in front all the way to this point, and they lead it by 9. And welcome back to Jacksonville. I'm Jim Durham with Bill Walton. The USA with a 9-point lead on Puerto Rico, 34-25. 15,000 plus looking on at the Veterans Memorial Arena. Julio Toro, the coach of Puerto Rico.
Working with Flor Melendez, trying to get it all together here. They've got a little bit of hope, cutting the deficit to 9 here as the USA has gone through a sort of a drought on the offensive end. USA's defense has maintained its intensity and efficiency throughout, but the outside shooting has dropped off since the opening moments.
And they are missing the playmaking of Tim Duncan in the post.
And when you don't have the luxury of bringing LeBron James in because of him being late for the meeting, you don't have Iverson's ability to convert on the break, puts a lot of pressure on everyone else. And with Duncan sitting out for the last few moments, the offensive fluidity has come to a grinding halt.
Stephon Marbury. Richard Jefferson around a boozer pick.
They're just packing it in. Everybody for Puerto Rico is just standing 2 steps off of whoever they're guarding.
Marion goes back to Odom. The shot clock at 5. Nice touch inside to Jefferson. And the rebound to Puerto Rico. Carlos Arroyo. And he is sent flying.
We can only hope that that is a foul.
Now calling the USA, number 11, Sean Marion.
Coming up Tuesday at 2 o'clock Eastern, ESPN's coverage of the U.S. 2004 Olympic men's basketball team will continue as they seek to defend the Olympic title and extend its streak of 3 golds at Athens. The USA will be in action against Italy from Germany Tuesday on ESPN at 2 o'clock Eastern. For more information, log on to ESPNradio.com. ESPN.com. You're getting some habits.
Italy always a power and a major contender for medals at the Olympics. The legend Dino Meneghin, recently inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame. Dan Peterson, who has meant so much to Italian basketball over the years.
Don't look now, but Puerto Rico has cut it to 7. Odom knocked away, and Marion controls it out to Marbury. 4 minutes for the half. Anthony off the bank. It's a 3 for Carmelo Anthony.
Brought a little smile to Carmelo's face. Carmelo's Denver coach Jeff Buzdelik is here.
And Emeka Okafor will be coming on shortly to make his debut. The long outside shot rebounds over the backboard. Tim Duncan also coming on for the U.S. And Emeka Okafor, the first ever first-round pick of the Charlotte Bobcats.
Emeka has been slowed by an ankle injury that he suffered in the first days here in Jacksonville at the University of North Florida practice site. Had to sit out most of this week. He was able to participate a little bit in yesterday's scrimmage.
10 on the shot clock for the U.S. Marbury had the pass tipped away, recovers. Then with a lob inside, nicely done and guided in by Marion. USA up by 12. So 5 straight points for the USA.
John Marion looking forward very much to playing with Steve Nash and Quentin Richardson in the revamped backcourt for the revitalized Phoenix Suns.
That's 3 threes for Larry Ayuso.
Congratulations to Steve Nash on that new contract.
Anthony. Contact, no call on the Marbury collision with Cassiano. Duncan with the rebound. Tried to guide it up there. Duncan again. And that one wouldn't go. Fajardo's outlet pass loose and out of bounds. The U.S. has it near midcourt.
Fajardo looking up the court saying, please, where would you like the ball next time?
Dwayne Wade in for Marbury for the U.S. About 2.5 minutes for the half.
And the shorter games always give the underdog a much more realistic chance of pulling off that unbelievable upset.
That's true. But the other thing about the shorter game, though, especially when you play the USA, they are going to hit you with about a 10 or 12 point run at some time. And you don't have as much time then to come back on it.
They got that run in the opening minutes this afternoon.
They did.
Since then, it's been a dead even ball game. And the zone defense has really perplexed this USA squad.
Marion offers a NBA-type three. And then Marion is called for a walk.
Tim Duncan banged up, and that's not a good sign. Greg Popovich, one of 3 assistant coaches to Larry Brown, Oliver Purnell from Clemson, and Roy Williams from North Carolina being the other. That is not a comforting sight for Greg Popovich. Looking over there at Tim Duncan.
Especially for him.
Wait a second here.
39-30 USA. Arroyo.
So Santiago's come alive here. The sky hook was not working for him early. He was getting bumped on the way up. He didn't have the strength or the control, but now he's going to the throwdown jams. He's going to the spot-up jumper.
And Arroyo has the steal from Duncan. Puerto Rico has cut it to 5.
And the fans here are a little upset. The choruses of boos. Larry Brown is skewing the timeout, letting him play through it.
1:23 for the half.
You need ball movement and a flashing postman to the high post to attack his own defense.
Wade left it for Okafor, and he somehow got it down. First 2 points for Emeka Okafor.
Nice fast break opportunity.
Ayuso missing on the 3. Marion has it for the U.S. A minute left in the half.
This guy, Dwayne Wade, is outstanding.
Anthony sends it inside to Marion. A dish to Duncan. He's fouled on the layup attempt. And Tim Duncan on the line to shoot 2. When we come back after this break. This layup by Arroyo got Puerto Rico to within 5. With Bill Walton, I'm Jim Durham, and welcome back to Jacksonville, where Puerto Rico has cut a 17-point lead down to 7 with 52.8. This game, Bill Walton, is almost like the game of basketball worldwide in which the rest of the world is closing the gap on the U.S.
In the 12 years since the NBA has been involved in FIBA, with a great move by David Stern and Boris Stoyankovich to make it all happen. Who would have ever thought it would come this quickly? And now with the players like Dirk Nowitzki, who we're going to see in Cologne, now with Yao Ming, now with Manu Ginobili, you having players from around the world equaling the level of excellence of the USA players.
In fact, in the FIBA rankings of all the nations, the U.S. is ranked 2nd to Serbia and Montenegro, based on their world championship won in Indianapolis.
And the debacle of the U.S. team with the injuries to the outside shooters like Ray Allen, Reggie Miller. And right now, it's just not happening. Larry Brown in that last timeout was just getting on the guys about their rebounding, about their finishing at the hoop, not getting to the free throw line, the transition defense.
Tim Duncan drops both free throws home to put the U.S. up by 9. Arroyo outside Fajardo. And now with 38 seconds left, the up-court pass picked off.
Get the ball to a guard here. Establish some control in a disciplined, dedicated way as to how you're going to win if you're Puerto Rico.
The shot clock at 13, so 11 difference.
John Marion with very difficult matchup.
But he made the block on the shot. 2 to shoot. Santiago gets it away. And I hit the rim, didn't it? Hit the bottom of the rim. They've called it a shot clock violation. Don't forget, Chuck Daly will be with us at halftime. We'll have first half stats and highlights as well. 10 seconds remaining.
Jim, that's when the ball hit the rim. One of the most difficult things in international basketball is to figure out what the call was. The rules, the interpretation, the referees who often don't speak the language that the players speak. They just say, well, play on, carry on.
Don't forget, Saturday, it's a showcase of the high-powered WNBA stars who lead Team USA in Athens. Tamika Catchings and the Indiana Fever face off against Tina Thompson and the Houston Comets. That's Saturday at 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific on the WNBA on ABC.
The professional league down in Puerto Rico, which is now celebrating its 78th year of its existence, has given us so many of our top coaches in the NBA. Phil Jackson, of course, had a stint down there. Henry Bibby, now the coach at USC. Casey Jones, Red Holtzman were all down there. They rescheduled their season this year for the Olympics, so they would be over in time. Normally it's a summertime season. The Baloncesto Superior Nacional League, BSN, so many top teams down there, but this team from Puerto Rico has been together for about a month. They've been here in Jacksonville for the last week to 10 days, training, sharing the facility at University of North Florida. And what hosts they've been here in this marvelous city, anchored by the St. Johns River flowing into the Atlantic Ocean.
Full court press by Puerto Rico. Marion trying to keep it alive and slap it on ahead, but Ayuso shaken up on the play. .9 remaining for the half.
And this is not good because Ayuso, along with Carlos Arroyo, are critical components to the backcourt, which is the real strength, along with Jose Ortiz, of this Puerto Rican team.
Timeout taken. Puerto Rico will have a chance at having the final say in the first half. They have whittled that lead down to 9. At one time, they had it down to 5. The U.S. led by as many as 17 in the first quarter, and the USA was up by 11 at the end of one. The USA playing today without Amare Stoudemire, Allen Iverson, and LeBron James, all ruled ineligible to play in this game by Larry Brown because they showed up late for an 11 o'clock meeting.
Not the way to get off to a start here. Larry Brown is trying to establish the real values and human characteristics that will identify this team over the next 6 weeks. And Larry Brown forced to do this. I mean, you can't just allow the players to run the show and show up whenever they want to. He made the right move.
You never showed up late, right? Even when you were a 17-year-old on the national team in 1970.
I loved being the first one to practice every day. I couldn't wait to get to the gym.
And probably the last one out of the gym.
Absolutely.
The first one in, the last one out, right?
The game was my religion, the gym my church. But that 1970 World Championship over in Ljubljana, Yugoslavia, looking forward to my first return trip there in 34 years.
Yeah. I'm sure they'll remember you there, Bill.
I actually played a game for one of the local teams on the other squad.
I remember that story. So
Zadar, Yugoslavia, beautiful coastal city.
Puerto Rico with 5.9 left in the half and within 9 and the ball.
Great pressure by Dwayne Wade.
And he got a hand on it to knock it out of bounds. So Puerto Rico now will throw in the front court.
Interesting how they're not pressuring the ball. You would think that after what the Lakers did to San Antonio in that game with the 0.4 seconds and Derek Fisher, you'd always pressure the ball.
Off the drive and then a kick out. And that's a 3 if it drops. And it rims out for Apodaca. We're at halftime here in Jacksonville. It was a quick start by the USA and then a slow climb to get back in it for Puerto Rico. One time, the U.S. was up 17. They head for the locker room with a 9-point lead. It's halftime in Jacksonville, and the U.S. leads Puerto Rico 43-34 in front of a sellout crowd here in the Veterans Memorial Arena in Jacksonville. Speaking of veterans, we're joined here at halftime by Chuck Daly, who, of course, was a longtime NBA coach but who took the Dream Team into Barcelona in '92. Maybe I've got that backwards, Chuck. I think the Dream Team took you into Barcelona.
Yeah, it's more like they took me. That was a great group, kind of a majestic team. Did a remarkable job for basketball, I think, around the world, and handled themselves beautifully.
There's a look at you and your coaching staff and some of your great stars, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird. Wow.
I'll tell you how we attacked the zone. We put Mullen on one side and Bird on the other. That was the end of the zone.
You know, now Larry Bird, of course, was at the end of his career, but Jordan was in his prime. Pippen was in his prime. David Robinson. I mean, Magic Johnson was playing for you. I mean, what was that like to have... Well, it's not even arguably the greatest. It was the greatest basketball team.
Oh,
ever.
I think so. All the other teams are wonderful, but that particular team with the talent and the way they handled themselves, and there was a certain amount of peer pressure among them, and nobody was concerned about minutes or scoring or anything else. So they just came there to do a job. Barkley was kind of instrumental, believe it or not. He was the big guy in the locker room, making sure everything went well.
And did that team then sort of put pressure on the teams that followed? I mean, how do you live up to the Dream Team if you're on the '96 team or the 2000 or this group?
Yeah, I think that's been the case. Everybody's trying to compare themselves to that particular team, and I don't think that's the way it has to be. Watching this team out here, they're playing a little bit like an all-star team, trying to play, as Larry says, the right way. But it's a hard job to live up to that team.
You know, the USA, of course, has so dominated Olympic basketball throughout, and I can't help but feel a lot of the reason is because the great college coaches and NBA coaches who, you know, gave up their time in the off seasons for many years to go into the foreign countries and teach the game.
Now, I've been to Italy 7 times. I've been to Spain 5 times. And most of the coaches in this country have been over to do clinics. Some have even been over this summer doing clinics. And so, consequently, you know, we help to educate their coaches. They, in turn, watch all our games on TV. And I think our team in '92, I felt then that when it was going to 190 countries or something, was going to have an effect on worldwide basketball. And it has done so.
Chuck Daly, our guest, we appreciate his time. The U.S. on top of Puerto Rico at halftime by 9. We'll be back after these messages. The U.S. with a 9-point lead on Puerto Rico here at halftime in Jacksonville. 43-34 is the score, and we'll be back after these messages. It's halftime in Jacksonville. The USA 43, Puerto Rico 34. And this the first of 6 games for the United States senior men's basketball team getting ready for the Olympics in a couple of weeks. Let's take a look at the highlights in the first half, presented by Reebok. Well, the United States made a silk purse out of a sow's ear off the opening tip. It nearly went out of bounds, and they end up getting a dunk for Sean Marion. The USA, who started out shorthanded without Allen Iverson, without LeBron James, without Amare Stoudemire, as they were disciplined for showing up late for an 11 o'clock meeting. That's Richard Jefferson connecting from deep. And Puerto Rico then started to come back from a 17-point deficit. Santiago on the jam as he beat Duncan to the hoop. And then Arroyo on the steal from Tim Duncan and the layup. At one time, Puerto Rico cut that 17-point deficit down to 5, and they had to settle for a 9-point deficit at halftime. And welcome back to Jacksonville at halftime with the United States on top of Puerto Rico 43-34. I'm Jim Durham with Bill Walton. We're glad to have you with us this afternoon for this first of 6 for the USA. And time now to take a look at the halftime stats brought to you by Subway.
This exhibition tour, Jim, is all about preparation. It's about conditioning, about coming together as a team. So you would expect a little bit of sloppy basketball. And with the USA having a +9 percentage point advantage in field goal percentage, that's given them this 9-point lead here. And you've got a +8 on the rebounding edge for the USA. 5 of those are on the offensive glass. Assists, very big disparity there, +9 for the USA. Dwayne Wade with 5 5 assists coming off the bench. Stephon Marbury has 3 of those 12 assists for the United States.
Getting ready for the opening tip here in the second half. And before we do, if you're joining us late, the U.S. today without Amare Stoudemire, without LeBron James, and Allen Iverson. Disciplined for showing up late for an 11 o'clock meeting. And where Iverson is concerned, this is a co-captain that showed up.
And so much was made all week long about the improved relationship between Larry Brown and Allen Iverson from their days in Philadelphia. Well, this was a situation where Allen Iverson is completely at fault here. They only had to come across the street from the beach to the meeting. The meeting was at 11 o'clock in the morning for a 1 o'clock game. And if you're late for that, that's just careless inattention to detail.
Opening tip of the second half controlled by Puerto Rico.
Another rule change from what NBA basketball fans are used to, the second half center jump.
In the NBA, Puerto Rico would have simply had possession, and Ayuso hits again. That's 13 points for him.
Well, the confidence is swelling right now for Puerto Rico. Tim Duncan answering back with a nice penetration and layoff by Marbury.
It's 11 for Duncan, and the USA on top by 8.
The plus-minus for Tim Duncan has got to be huge. When he has been on the court, Puerto Rico has had no chance.
There's a foul in the act of shooting for 3. The foul on Jefferson. And Ayuso gets to the free throw line. That field goal, by the way, by Larry Ayuso here to start out the third quarter was a 3. So he's got 4 3-pointers today, and he's got 14 points in the game.
So he comes out, Ayuso does, he gets a 3-pointer on the opening tap. Then he comes back on the very next possession, and he'll go to the free throw line for 3 free throws.
The first of which he misses.
Free throw shooting has not been a real strong point for Puerto Rico, just shooting 57%, 4 of 7 in the first half. And you would think when you're trying to pull off a major upset, granted this is an exhibition and practice game, but whenever you step on the court, and these fans have paid good money for this tremendous event here in Jacksonville, you have a professional responsibility, and there's pride at stake.
Now you want to deliver a little message for that opening game against the USA in Athens on the 15th of August.
I am a little surprised that there is not a stronger Puerto Rican contingent in attendance here. Sold out arena, the Jacksonville Memorial Auditorium.
The U.S. down to 10 to shoot. Duncan inside, and a foul will put Duncan on the line. Foul is on Jorge Rivera. Rivera with his first.
It was cute yesterday when we were talking with Tim, and we were asking him about the addition of Brent Berry to the team in San Antonio this year. Tim is the master of discipline and fundamentals and the laid-back, placid demeanor that we're so accustomed to from this phenomenal talent. But now you've got a perimeter squad of Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and Brent Berry. Oh, goodness gracious. Greg Popovich, he might be pulling his hair out this season.
Tell you what, he's got to be wondering, why can't we get Duncan to do this thing in the regular season? 6 out of 7 from the line for Duncan as he pours in both free throws.
Jim, you have to expect there to be ups and downs here. This team has been only playing 6 days of basketball. This is when you start to hit the low point. They'll be bouncing back up midway through next week. The conditioning level, not what it will be by the time the Athens games start on August 13th.
The USA in transition. Lamar Odom finishes.
All made possible by the running of the floor of Tim Duncan. That drew the defense, and with Lamar Odom coming up as the 4-man trailer, calling out verbally from behind, Marbury able to lay it off to him.
Back to a double-digit margin for the USA.
Odom again defensively. He's out in transition.
This is Marbury, and that's Jefferson.
Marbury back-to-back assists, forcing Puerto Rico to call a timeout.
This is one of those runs by the USA that we talked about in the first half, Bill. It came early in the first half. It's coming early in the second half. Here in Jacksonville, after Puerto Rico had closed to within 6, the USA now up by 12, 51-39, and it's time now for the All-State Good Hands assist of the game, and it came in that most recent flourish by the USA.
An explosive start here to the third quarter. Richard Jefferson able to give it up and get it right back from Stephon Marbury, who now has 5 assists in the contest. Everything happening right under the leadership and guidance of Stephon Marbury. And it was fun to see Stephon go over there and have a little conversation with Larry Brown, who's notorious for his relationship.
Arroyo trap, Marion!
So much for the lethargic close to the first half by the USA.
Back to a 14-point lead.
There's that trapping, pressing, extended defense now.
Loose ball as it's tapped out by Jefferson, controlled by Puerto Rico. Arroyo finds Ayuso, and he launches from 3. That's number 5 on the day for Larry Ayuso.
That whole play made possible, Jim, by the brilliance of Jose Ortiz, who kept the ball alive for Puerto Rico on the offensive glass and then screened out the big men for the United States to keep them from closing out on Ayuso.
Puerto Rico 6 of 14 from 3, and 5 of them by Ayuso. That's Stephon Marbury. Marbury with just his second field goal.
The problem for the USA has been they just don't have the deep enough bench with the 3 guys who have been disciplined and are unable to play today because of being late.
Carmelo Anthony off the bench and headed for the scorer's table. Ritner had it blocked. Duncan with a scoop for Marbury. Marion coming back to Marbury. And a return. I'm talking to Chuck Daly at halftime. He was talking about the USA and how they sort of played like an all-star team in the first half. Maybe overpassed a few times. Duncan around and out. Nice tip try, though, by Odom.
USA, number 14 with the tip.
But when Chuck Daly coached that 92 team, he had the luxury of the leadership qualities of Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, and Michael Jordan. And that's what Larry Brown is searching for with this team right now. Nice give and go by Puerto Rico, and then a strong finish by Santiago, who has really come alive after a subpar start.
6 points for him.
But when your best players are your hardest workers, the most committed, disciplined team guys, it makes it so much easier for the coach.
Duncan. And that's been the case where Duncan is concerned for the USA today.
And that's another difference in international basketball. When you're up in the air as the offensive player and you put that off arm out as the lead block, and they just never call that on the offensive player.
Jorge Rivera on the miss. Duncan on the rebound. Marbury sends it to Odom. Marion. Shot clock at 12.
Rivera doing a tremendous job defensively.
He's all over the place. And the U.S. coming with 3 substitutes. Boozer, Wade, and Anthony.
Timeout, USA.
And a timeout taken. Timeout with 5:16 left in the third. And the United States has opened it up again, back to 15.
At this very moment, countless battles are raging.
Alliances are being formed and broken.
Legends created and destroyed.
At this very moment, new worlds are being discovered.
Codes broken, strategies devised,
Records shattered.
At this
Very moment,
all across the world.
it's growing.
it's evolving.
At this very moment, we have PlayStation 2
Online.
PlayStation 2, now just $149.
USA Basketball, the United States versus Puerto Rico, is brought to you by 989 Sports, only on PlayStation 2. And by American Airlines, with 3,900 flights a day to 250 cities worldwide. Well, at one time here in the third quarter, this sellout crowd in the Veterans Memorial Arena in Jacksonville thought they may have a real close game. Puerto Rico was within 6. There you see the score now. The USA back up by 15.
Well, Larry Ayuso led the surge by Puerto Rico early on in the third here with the three-point shooting. But the USA extending its defense. The domination on the boards. Richard Jefferson comes up hobbling after being hammered on his drive to the hoop, lost his shoe. Richard Jefferson fresh off a tremendous youth basketball camp that he held in Tucson, Arizona last week. Catalina High School. He was entertaining all the young people with their dreams and aspirations of futures in this great game of basketball.
And Richard Jefferson is ready now to go to the free throw line. He's got 7 points today.
This is not good when he's rubbing his knee like that. The collision underneath the trainers for the USA team. David Craig from the Indiana Pacers. Timmy Walsh from the New Jersey Nets. Of course, Timmy Walsh, a long-time relationship with Richard Jefferson on that net squad.
And rubbing his knee and looking at about a 10 or 11 hour plane ride.
The team will leave right after the game from the arena here. The charter flight over to Cologne, arrive Sunday morning. The game Tuesday night. Puerto Rico, on the other hand, they'll stay here for a couple days where they've been training, and then they'll be off to Spain, where that will be their headquarters as they continue their preparations for the opening round game against the USA on August 15th.
Ayuso around the Santiago pick. Ayuso gets all the way, but then he ran into heavy traffic around the rim area. Here's Duncan.
Nice.
That's Boozer. And a foul.
What more can you say about Tim Duncan, who has added so many different elements to his game, including driving out with the defensive ball after the rebound, the block, the steal, whatever. He's playing like Oscar Robertson, John Stockton, Magic Johnson. Incredible. And he's 7 feet tall.
And Boozer completes the three-point play. That foul was on Carlos Arroyo. That's his first. 3 team fouls on Puerto Rico, who now trails by 18. Shot coming up short. Dwayne Wade hustles. Here's Anthony. And as Anthony made the pass ahead, a foul in the open court to stop the thrust up the floor. Ayuso picks up the personal.
Very smart foul. USA had huge numbers, 4 on 0 really. Ayuso did the wise thing by committing the foul and stopping the break and preventing the throwdown, which would ignite this crowd.
That foul on Ayuso is his third. It's 14 fouls on Puerto Rico. Remember, just like in the NBA, 5 team fouls per quarter, and you're on the free throw line on that 5th one.
We have not seen the goaltending rule come into play at all, which I think is a major difference, and it would really be a good addition to the NBA game.
Spoken like a big man.
Well, it would promote quickness. It would promote more thought and strategy.
Richard Jefferson with a nifty move inside. Jefferson has 9, and the USA has its biggest lead at 20. A little over 4 minutes for the third. We talked about this in the first half. There's going to come a time in the game, and may happen more than once, that the United States is going to put a bunch of points up there quickly. 4 to shoot. Santiago with a nice move.
This is a learning experience for Daniel Santiago, who's coming alive now and early on in his pro career for Terry Porter up with Milwaukee.
Wade went the behind the back route, but it got turned over. The 3 won't go down.
Who can push the ball here? Stephon Marbury now on the bench. No fewer ball handlers out there. Wade able to turn the corner.
And he drew the foul on the move down the lane. That's 5 team fouls on Puerto Rico.
One of the things that Puerto Rico is missing here in this exhibition game is their 19-year-old 7-3 star Peter John Ramos, who is playing right now up in Halifax for the under-21 Puerto Rican national team in a big international tournament up there in Nova Scotia. He will rejoin the team Puerto Rico by the time the Athens game starts.
And in this game, they're about to be missing Larry Ayuso. That's his 4th foul. He's their leading scorer today. That foul puts Puerto Rico over the limit here in the 3rd. And Dwayne Wade takes advantage at the foul line. Back to a 20-point lead for USA.
The United States done a good job defensively on Carlos Arroyo, who has not had the impact. Nice, strong, left-handed, swooping attempt at the basket that time by Santiago.
Boozer called for the foul.
Now called on the USA, number 7, Carlos
That's
Boozer.
his first. And now they get the change in the backcourt as Ayuso goes out of the game with 4 fouls.
15, Daniel Santiago, shooting 2.
Santiago making the first of 2. 9 points for him.
Tim Duncan with the quick hands once again on the rebound, able to keep it in his team's favor, even though he won't get the credit individually for the rebound. As Chuck Daly said, at this level, it can never be about individual statistics.
Boozer on the finish. 9 points for Boozer, and the U.S. with a 21-point lead, its biggest.
The overwhelming strength and athleticism advantage on the inside. A nice drive that time by Castellano,
who gets the hoop and the foul. Boozer with his second.
Personal foul, number 7, Carlos Boozer.
So Castellano goes to the free throw line. I'm Jim Durham with Bill Walton, and we're here in Jacksonville.
Field goal by number 5.
USA basketball senior men's team playing its first of 6 pre-Olympic exhibitions against Puerto Rico. The leading scorers today, Ayuso on the bench with 4 fouls, 19 points. Tim Duncan with 15, and Castellano at the foul line there makes it 68-60. 68-50, I should say, with 2:34 left. The 3 won't go for Anthony, but he got knocked out, and so he'll be on the line shooting 3.
Very late whistle, but the USA's ball movement has been exemplary all afternoon. No signs of selfishness whatsoever. Richard Jefferson able to set up Carlos Boozer, who's starting to find his rhythm after the long cross-country flights, 2 in basically 1 day, flying from here, commercial airlines, all the way to Salt Lake City, and then back to just make it in time for the game.
Sean Marion coming into the game, Richard Jefferson going out. Anthony makes good on the first.
USA has won 12 Olympic gold medals.
One very tainted silver and a bronze.
Bronze from '88 when the Soviet Union beat Yugoslavia. And a spectacular finish for the legendary Soviet team coached by Alexander Gomelsky, led by Sabonis, Marshallonis. But Puerto Rico has a real tradition themselves. And in Tokyo in '64, they finished 4th. Their high point was the 1994 Goodwill Games in St. Petersburg, Russia, where Carlos Morales, now calling the game for ESPN Deportes here in Jacksonville today, led that team to the gold medal in St. Petersburg.
Stolen by Anthony.
Dwayne Wade, what a pass.
And Marion, what a finish. Marion has 12, and the U.S. with a 22-point lead at the 2-minute mark of the 3rd.
Dwayne Wade and Tim Duncan have been by far the best players for the USA. And what we've seen from Dwayne Wade today has been a player who has an uncanny sense and vision of the game of basketball. He identifies the plays before anybody else.
Don't forget Tuesday from Cologne, Germany at 2 o'clock Eastern. USA takes on Italy in the second game of this swing through 4 countries altogether, counting this game today against Puerto Rico. On Wednesday, same time, same station, same country. The USA will take on the German national team.
It's interesting because 2 of the opponents on the tour are not even in the Olympics. The German team and the Turkish team did not qualify for the Olympics, so we'll have to see what kind of physical condition they're in. Dirk Nowitzki will be playing for Germany.
Oh, nice move by Castellano. Castellano with the hoop. Back to a 20-point game. Well, I mentioned a moment ago about that very tainted silver medal. That, of course, coming in the '72 Olympics when the U.S. team felt it got jobbed by the officials as the Soviets were given 3 opportunities to score the go-ahead and winning basket. And never did. That team never did accept the silver medal.
No pressure on the ball on that inbounds pass as well. Larry Brown just waving Dwayne Wade away. Dwayne Wade so used to looking over to the coach for directions after playing for his fine college coach Tom Crean up at Marquette, and now Stan Van Gundy down in Miami. Larry Brown, he doesn't want the guys on this squad right now looking over for direction from the coach on the bench. Just get up there and learn how to play. Be the leader yourself.
Boozer picking up his 3rd foul. Less than a minute for the 3rd, and the USA in front by 18. A long 3. Odom rakes it down. Wade felt a little bump, comes back for the loose ball. And Boozer off the miss. Loose ball on the rebound. It sails out of bounds. It belongs to the USA.
And Officer Ken over here, I don't know, we have to question his hands. He told me he had a real game. But after watching that ball just sail right by Officer Ken here at the Jacksonville Police Force, I'm going to have to go back and check the videotape.
We have a stoppage here because when Cassiano went down, they want to make sure that that damp area on the court is wiped up. Here's a look at that collision.
The ball comes all the way over right past our broadcast position. Just right up the right side of the screen. Officer Ken, a little late to react.
There's Officer Ken. And in doing so, you miss a highlight reel of Anthony on a jam inside. Carmelo Anthony, spectacular play. Back to 20 for the USA.
Carlos Arroyo unable to get by Dwayne Wade at all.
And Apodaca is fouled by Marion in the act. So Apodaca is on the line.
Off the high screen. Again, Dwayne Wade setting everybody up. Carmelo Anthony just pushing his own teammate, Lamar Odom.
Yes.
Lamar Odom towers over Carmelo Anthony.
It's like a feeding frenzy at the rim. Odom was there in case Anthony wasn't, and vice versa.
But when you talk about these 3 great rookies that the NBA has to carry on the tradition of the league, LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, and Dwayne Wade. LeBron and Dwayne Wade, they have the unbelievable physical gifts. Carmelo doesn't have that. You know, he's more of the skilled type player with the touch, with the sense, the scoring capabilities and mentality of a throwback player. With the throw down.
How about that? That was Wade on the finish. And that shot into the hands of Odom as the 3rd quarter comes to a close. And the USA was challenged earlier in this quarter, but then some unselfish play, some pressure defense, forcing turnovers, getting runouts. And all of a sudden, the United States comfortably in front by 19.
Hey, last quarter, no bad shots, no 2-shot foul, no second shot. Everybody got that? Hey, they're going to press us. So we got to be aware of the press. That's when you got to play. All right.
Larry Brown with his team and a comfortable 21-point lead, getting ready to go to the 4th. Emeka Okafor coming back into the game for the United States.
Larry Brown always coaching, always trying to gain that edge, realizing it's the thinking aspects, the mental decision making. Remember, Larry Brown played on the 1964 gold medal winning team, and his stories yesterday about the training camp that they had in Hawaii, playing with Bill Bradley, playing with Walt Hazzard from UCLA, and all the special guys, coached by Coach Iba on the team, and the responsibility that this USA squad had, which makes the actions and the lateness, the tardiness of Iverson, James, and Stoudemire so disappointing today, particularly on the heels of David Stern's comments yesterday. He flew down specially to give the guys the lecture about how important their role, their obligation, their duty and responsibility is.
Okafor is fouled and will be on the line shooting 2.
Now called on Puerto Rico, 7, Carlos Arroyo.
Arroyo has his second personal. First team foul in Puerto Rico in the fourth quarter.
What an eye-opening experience it's going to be for Emeka Okafor. Joining the NBA after the NCAA championship performance with Connecticut and Jim Calhoun.
He's got to feel like Christian Laettner, right, in some respects, when Christian Laettner was on the '92 Dream Team.
But Emeka Okafor, has really got valuable skills for this team as a big man. So many of the other guys, the Kevin Garnett's, the Shaquille O'Neals, turned it down to Jermaine O'Neal's. And so now with Emeka Okafor joining the NBA on an expansion franchise, oh, goodness gracious, I was going to say, what happened to those good old days of Ben Gordon? Winning games easily, being on television.
Ortiz had it blocked by Odom. Marbury. Anthony.
Nice. Well, the quick first step in the crossover.
Carmelo Anthony adds to his point total. He's got 14 points working. And the U.S. has its biggest lead. Cassiano missing for 3. Odom the rebound.
With only a 4-man bench rotation available to Larry Brown because of the discipline. Over the top. Oh, Marion was blocked out by Carlos Arroyo that time.
Now the pass hit the backboard, so Marbury probably be charged with an attempt. Shot attempt.
We can only hope not.
Ortiz gets the entry pass to Gallardo. His shot blocked, but goaltending is called on Anthony. Sharif Gallardo, his first field goal. Saturday, it's a showcase of the high-powered WNBA stars who will lead Team USA in Athens. Tamika Catchings and the Indiana Fever face off against Tina Thompson and the Houston Comets. That's at 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 Pacific on the WNBA on ABC.
Block shot for Gallardo. We've talked today about Allen Iverson and the problems that he's had, but also how we haven't mentioned Amare Stoudemire, who, because he plays for the Phoenix Suns, rarely plays in Florida. This is his home state. Now he comes here very close to the Orlando area. Orlando's just 2 hours away here from Jacksonville, and I'm sure he's got tons of family members here. And to be late and disciplined and have to sit it out, yikes.
Cassiano rattles one out. Marbury at the controls for the U.S.
Nice passing, Anthony.
Okafor dances his way to the hoop, but lost the ball in the process.
Carmelo Anthony on the wing. No defense whatsoever is going to be able to stop this, and that's the versatility that Carmelo Anthony brings.
Gallardo on the jam on the setup by Bobby Joe Hatton. Back to a 20-point lead for the U.S.
Ayuso, Bobby Joe Hatton have played very well. It's been tough because the defense for the USA has been really focused on Carlos Arroyo, who has not been able to get off at all.
Okafor trying to slip a bounce pass into Odom, and the ball out of bounds. Puerto Rico will have it. Boozer and Wade and Jefferson return for the U.S.
Okafor struggling right now. Larry Brown just going to let him play through it with a nice comfortable lead. He's got to find his rhythm, and the injury that kept him out of most of this week, being so much younger and more inexperienced, not younger age-wise, but just not playing at the NBA level the way that all these other players for Larry Brown have. Dwayne Wade, just so quick to the ball.
And Anthony, too. Anthony almost ran down the official going for that loose ball. Look at this group out there with Wade, Anthony, Boozer, Okafor. Richard Jefferson is like the graybeard.
And he's 24.
Yeah.
They're chanting for Allen Iverson here. I do not believe the crowd knows that he has been held out of this game for disciplinary reasons.
We thought we heard it announced on the public address system. Gallardo draws the foul and goes to the line to shoot 2.
I don't know about you. I've never been to an arena where I couldn't understand the PA announcements.
So the pre-Olympic tour for the U.S. in game 1 going all U.S. so far. Jim Durham with Bill Walton. The United States team jumped out to a 17-point lead in the first quarter. Ayuso helped lead a charge by Puerto Rico to get back in it. They were within 5 in the first half. They were within 6 in the third. But they've been down by as many as 24 and right now trail by 20. Gallardo trying to do something about that deficit. Puerto Rico has never beaten the United States in Olympic competition. 0-5.
They had the 1-point loss in 1976 in pool play in Montreal.
Jefferson. Now surrounded inside, but here's Boozer. And his pass is stolen. Dalmau all the way. Okafor the rebound and out of bounds off the United States, so Puerto Rico has it.
You look at the guard play for Puerto Rico right now, which is really the strength of their team. Remember, Puerto Rico is a country that just has 4 million people in it, compared to what we have, 280 million people in the United States. But a great tradition of point guard play at Puerto Rico, going back to 1959 to Gene Vicente, or 1990 with Fico Lopez. They had tremendous success at the World Championship level.
Puerto Rico, number 6.
That's Hatton. Hatton connecting. It's a 17-point game now. Jefferson loads one up. Richard Jefferson with the jam.
Poor transition that time on the defensive end for Puerto Rico. Things starting to fall apart here.
Hatton is fouled. Dwayne Wade called for the personal. 2 fouls on Wade. And 2 team fouls on the United States here in the fourth. Larry Brown's club up by 19 with 5:43 left. Didn't you talked about that 76 team. Didn't Butch Lee play for Puerto Rico?
Yes. Butch Lee, tremendous player for Puerto Rico, and has now moved back to Puerto Rico. Certainly an outstanding talent, but you could not say that Butch would be considered one of the top 5 players in the history of Puerto Rican basketball.
Boozer was fouled, and he'll be on the line.
Personal foul, Puerto Rico.
Foul is on Jose Ortiz. First foul on Ortiz.
And when you talk about that great history in Puerto Rico, Jose Ortiz is at the top of the list.
2 shots.
On the line, Boozer takes the first of 2. Don't forget Tuesday, game 2 on the tour from Germany, but against Italy at 2 o'clock Eastern on ESPN. And then the United States will play the German national team same time on Wednesday from Cologne. The lead is back to 20. Bobby Joe Hatton.
Dwayne Wade's defensive capabilities. And now here he is in transition.
You know, he's going to be, and already is, a very special player in the NBA. Anthony was fouled, and he'll be on the line to shoot, too. The thing about Wade, well, the thing about, it's Anthony and LeBron James, too, when you watch them play. They play with great energy. They play with passion. They play to compete. I mean, that's what it takes to be a star at this level. Oh, well, and talent.
He's got an abundance of that, Dwayne Wade. The amazing thing to me is that the Lakers made that trade without getting Dwayne Wade.
Well, you don't think Miami was going to part with him if they didn't have to?
Well, you're saying that you wouldn't trade Dwayne Wade for Shaq if you're Miami?
Not if I didn't have to. That's for sure.
But the Lakers couldn't hold out for that?
Well, I don't know how that worked. I don't know how it all came down, but I know one thing. If I'm Miami, he's the last guy I want to give up on, and not give up on, but put in a deal like that.
Well,
if you don't have to.
The Lakers obviously made the decision that Shaq was on his way out of town. Nice pass by Sean Marion.
But Anthony unable to control it. Puerto Rico trying to run out, and who do you suppose got down there on the coverage and got a hand on it? Dwayne Wade. Richard Jefferson and the USA sailing to a win in Game 1. Well, we went out with Dwayne Wade, and we'll come back with Dwayne Wade, Bill Walton.
It never stops. The Dwayne Wade story. Defensively in transition at the top of your screen. He stays on the ground while everybody else is trying to stand up and elevate to get up to the ball. Dwayne Wade at just 6'4". And imagine if he was a couple inches taller. The comparisons to a Michael Jordan, to a Dr. J. But his demeanor, his composure, his sense of, this is my game, this is my world, this is a special talent.
Off the inbounds, a foul on Marion.
I don't know about you, Jim, but I'm going to miss Jacksonville. This has been fun here.
Jacksonville will be hosting the Super Bowl in a few months. They're counting it down.
Super Bowl will be held February 6th of 2005. The Jacksonville Sports and Entertainment Board with Mike Sullivan so instrumental in the growth of these type of events.
The shot clock at 12 for Puerto Rico. Time's a-wasting. 8 to shoot now. Apodaca off the fade. Here comes the U.S.
So many guys who can handle the ball. Nice pass, Carmelo Anthony.
And Boozer was there to get the layup. That's 11 for Boozer.
Now that's a basketball player, Anthony. Comes right down, sees the whole play, the way, like Stephon Marbury early on, like Tim Duncan, moving away from the open seam in the middle of the court to create the opportunity for his teammate.
Bobby Joe Hatton, 7 on the shot clock. And the three is knocked out to make it 86-65 score. Here's Anthony.
One of the few times today we've seen any of the USA players go one-on-one.
Ball knocked out of bounds by Puerto Rico. Stephon Marbury coming back. And also Emeka Okafor. Marion and Jefferson go out.
A little surprising, Jim, to see this kind of substitutions with the comfortable lead. Only 3:19 to go. You got guys who are stiffening up on the sidelines. You got the long plane ride coming. Everybody who's out there is playing well. I'm sure Popovich is telling her that do not put Tim Duncan in.
That's Marbury. A 23-point lead for the USA. It's been pretty much on cruise control since early in the third.
Well, the two runs. The first in the first quarter, over the top.
Okafor on the jam on the setup by Wade. Wide margin of victory is something, of course, that the U.S. has done a lot of in Olympic and international competition. You'd have to win by large scores to put up the kind of iron that they have in the history. Olympics alone with the 12 golds and 1 silver, 1 bronze. Boozer. And a foul. Boozer on the line to shoot for a 3-point play.
Interesting, though, that margin is coming down because the 92 team, coached by Chuck Daly, had a 44-point per game average winning spread. The 96 team, coached by Lenny Wilkins, had 32 points per victory as everybody getting involved. The transition defense just giving up at this point. The 2000 team in Sydney, coached by Rudy Tomjanovich. Congratulations to Rudy on getting back with the good health in the Lakers. Now only 22 points a game. We'll have to see what it is in 2004 with Larry Brown, the noted defensive coach.
About 2 minutes remaining, and the U.S. up by 27. Dalmau with a good feed inside.
Puerto Rico.
Alex Falcone with that basket. Boozer kicks out to Stephon Marbury. Underneath off the reverse, nothing doing, and loose ball with the. Apparently Marbury was out of bounds when he had possession on the sideline.
And more substitutions. Richard Jefferson coming in for the star of this game, Dwayne Wade.
And a timeout with 1:38 remaining. The U.S. is cruising. Welcome back to Jacksonville with Bill Walton. I'm Jim Durham. There's Larry Brown, his coaching staff, and the USA. They're up big, and it's time now for the 989 Sports Play of the Game. Been some tough ones to pick from, but we have picked one.
Emblematic of Larry Brown style, the 989 Player of the Game. Play of the game, excuse me. Carmelo Anthony along the baseline, the high screen, freeing up the point guard to deliver that ball right on the mark.
Anthony with 18 points today has shot extremely well.
Firepower off the bench. Always critical when you have the best team. You got Carmelo Anthony. You got Dwayne Wade coming off. How long are they going to keep him on the bench, though? Carlos Boozer played very well. And hopefully this game, this disciplinary action will serve as a wake-up call to Stoudemire, James, and Iverson.
Anthony the rebound on the Fajardo miss, but Hatton took it away from him.
And score for 6, Puerto Rico.
1:10 remaining.
But how smart was the USA basketball organization to bring this squad here to Jacksonville? When you go back to the early days, early on in La Jolla in '92 before going to Monte Carlo, '96 in Chicago, 2000 in Hawaii before going to Australia, and now 2004 in Jacksonville at the Ponte Verde Resort. That's a nice spot.
And throughout the United States in exhibition play leading up to the Olympics, have won 18 in a row. Fajardo draws the foul, gets to the free throw line for Puerto Rico. I mean, 109-2 is the American record in Olympic competition.
The two losses, 72 to the Soviet Union on the disputed play at the very end, and then in '88 when Sabonis, Marshallonis, and Gomelski just led a brilliant display of how to play team basketball. That was so inspirational.
And yet won by 6 for a group
in a game that wasn't that close.
Right. Well, but it was it was a veteran Soviet team. So Fajardo with the 2 free throws makes it a 23-point lead for the United States.
But with Lithuania in the USA's pool, a team that barely lost to the USA in Barcelona and in Sydney in 2000.
Yep.
They had a three-pointer, Lithuania did, with under 10 seconds to go when they were just trailing by 2 to win the game.
Emeka Okafor on the free throw line for the United States. As you saw the USA bench, you know, obviously Larry Brown would have liked to have had his full contingent of players today. We got tennis coming up next on ESPN.
But this is about preparation. This is about conditioning and coming together as a team. And the critical element of any group dynamic is discipline and following the instructions of the man on top. And that's Larry Brown. He'll have none of this tardiness.
Okafor with the rebound. The final seconds of Game 1 of the 6-game exhibition tour by the United States leading into the Olympics goes to USA big. 96-71 is the final today in Jacksonville. We'll be right back after these messages.